Jay is also going to, so Jay's going to introduce AHIN and then also introduce Ritmos for us. Our colleague was, Frances was not able to be here today, but really wanted to, is a part of this network and wanted to share some information. So Jay's going to share about Ritmos.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. AHIN is a group of professionals from South and Southeast Asia, and then our members are from more than 63 countries, and our membership is like right now, I think it's around 1,300 plus, and we also have a number of developing and implementation partners being in the membership. And then AHIN believes in peer sharing and caring for our peers and peer learning. With that, I would like to sum up what AHIN is. And this is about the colleague Francis from Ritmos. This Ibero-American Network for Mobile Technologies in Health. Unfortunately, due to some exigencies, he's not able to be with us right now. So, but he would like to be his presence felt here. Maybe towards the end of the discussion, we would like to share his thoughts regarding how we can work together. Thank you very much. We will have the same set of slides in the end where Francis has shared how Ritmos can be part of the NON and then how we can all work together. Maybe we will visit this slide in the end again. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jay. And so before we move on, I will introduce, I'm also here representing the Global Digital Health Network. So we started back in 2009 as the mHealth Working Group. And so it was a partnership of several large global NGOs working to kind of share best practices on using mobile technologies in the health sector and health development. And then the network has really grown exponentially over the last, I guess, what is that, 11, 12 years. And so now we are the Global Digital Health Network. And so our core objectives are to share knowledge and provide a space for colleagues around the world to share best practices in digital health, exchange information, and to disseminate best practices and global tools and guidelines. And to that extent, we hold monthly meetings to share information. We have a very active membership of over 4,000 people from over 117 countries. And we host the Global Digital Health Forum each year, which is one of a very large conference where folks from around the globe come together and share on their work in digital health. And so our membership consists of governments, development partners, donors, the private sector, academia, and those maybe even not necessarily working specifically in digital health or perhaps don't consider themselves digital health practitioners, but have digital health as part of their programming, as part of their work to strengthen the health sector and health systems. So the Global Digital Health Network is also, I'm representing them today as well. So thank you to my colleagues for introducing yourselves and your networks. I think it's amazing that we all got together today. I'm really happy that we were all able to be here and you were all able to be here. So as part of in sharing our journey today, I would like for Jay if Jay could tell us a little bit more about how the network from the very inception when this idea of kind of getting the networks together was a small idea back in a meeting, I think in Berlin. So Jay, if you could just kick us off with a little bit of how the Network of Networks came to be, that would be great.
Thanks, Christina. In the early part of AHIN's journey itself, like we felt the need to actually work together with our peer networks. So I think it was in 2016 during our 5th annual general meeting in Bali. We had this partnership agreement signed with the Pacific Health Information Network, FIN. And then I think it was in 2017, we started engaging with the African Alliance. And then at the same time, we also started our discussions or sharing our experiences with ACFI. And then we also got invited. Sean is here and Amira is here from ACFI. And they were kind enough to invite me for the eHealth Afro conference. I think it was in October 2017 held in Johannesburg. And we were able to share the regional cooperation, the lessons from Asia. So that was a wonderful experience to share the experiences from AHIN there, and then also hear from our counterparts in Africa. So I would say that the collaboration started quite early between the networks. And then it was in Berlin when it took shape slowly towards having more networks, where we had this conference on futures of e-health. It dealt about the social, legal, and ethical challenges. We were able to have a panel curated by AHIN. It was supposed to be predominantly on Asian experiences, but then it was curated by AHIN into an international uh, session with active participation from ACFI and Raxel. And then we again met in Wilton Park in November 2019 for the Digital Health Leadership Capacity Building, which was a consultative workshop that was held in Wilton Park, where we were able to, in fact, one of the themes there and the discussion was how networks can actually support this digital health leadership program. So that was the time that when we, as several other networks, started getting together. And then the very next month, in December 2019, we met in Washington D.C., and that was for the JDHF 2019, where we had the first formal meeting on networking the networks. It was on key enablers for digital principles, and then we also started thinking about how we can work together and have a joint call of action. That was followed up in May 2020 for the Global Digital Development Forum. I think some of my colleagues will be sharing more about that. And then we followed up with, again, the GDHF 2020, where in fact the network of networks was included as into the planning committee of GDHF itself. And then going forward, I would like to see that, I think a couple of our networks, peer networks, also working with Transform Health Coalition for regional workshops on data governance. Thank you very much. I think my colleagues will be sharing more about some of this.
Thanks, Jay. So Danielle, can you tell us a little bit more about what the Network of Networks has been doing in 2020 leading up to this meeting with AHIN today?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as Jay mentioned, we start to work together at the Global Digital Health Forum in 2019. After this meeting, we start to communicate each other through the emails and a group in WhatsApp. And this is the way that currently we used to communicate between us. Well, and as we know, the pandemic situation start and digital health strategies and the digital response in the countries start. So we start to exchange information through these channels that I mentioned before about the different experiences that the countries has implemented to respond to COVID-19, like the registries of cases, the contact tracing, and well, recently the topics related with the COVID-19 vaccines introduction in the countries. So these channels and the collaboration between us has been very strong to don't reinventing the wheel and trying to share these experiences in our countries. We have participated in several webinars that organized by the different networks, sharing these experiences in the COVID-19 response mainly. And we also have worked in the writing of a manifesto. We start this manifesto in the document in 2019, the Global Digital Health Forum, and we have continued the elaboration of this document when we are putting all the ideas, the values of the network and what is the value that we can add from our networks to the network of networks. Thanks to Christina, Lauren, invite us to participate in the committee of the Global Digital Health Forum 2020, the organization. So we start to work in several meetings to organize and the review of the abstracts for the forum. So we work very close with the team of the Global Digital Health Network in this matter. So, well, the final activity that we had as a network was in the Global Digital Health Forum, and that in this year for the pandemic situation was virtual. We have a panel of the network of networks, and we share a workshop, a virtual workshop with other colleagues from all the regions, trying to share ideas in the virtual scenario about our experiences in the mostly in the COVID-19 response, but also in all related with the digital health strategies. So, well, we are here now starting this new year, stronger than ever, and thinking to move forward to the collaboration is strong. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, and I just want to add on that the network of networks being part of planning for the Global Digital Health Forum 2020, I think this year was a great example of how the benefit added and the value added of our networks all collaborating together. We, you know, from having planned the forum in the past years, I think you all just having the varying perspectives and leadership in digital health from across the globe and across these different regions really made our event what it was. And so from putting together, you know, co-creating tips on how to submit an abstract, to reviewing the abstracts, as Danielle said, to then even helping us think through switching from being in person to virtual, and having you know, people chime in on, you know, what time should we offer sessions and how should we proceed. I think that just shows kind of the, you know, the value added of us being and working together, and shows how when there is a practical or kind of tangible activity or opportunity for us to collaborate, we really are able to see the value added of the network of networks. So now that we've kind of talked about where we've been as a network, although I'm sure others will continue to chime in with their stories of the benefits and the opportunities that we've had to collaborate, I would like for us to kind of shift a little bit to thinking about what our role as the network of networks and will be in the coming years. And so this is kind of open up to all of you as the representatives of the networks, but, you know, talk to me a little bit about where you see the role of the network of networks in the coming years. What value can us working together really add to the digital health ecosystem?
Christina may go first.
Sure.
Thanks, Christina. I think it's one thing that a network works with other networks, or all networks work with each other. But there is also a different perspective. I would say that, in fact, we had some experiences which was very helpful. How quickly we were able to get a response or support from our peer networks. There is one experience that I know recently. In fact, Sean is here and Amira is here. In fact, like there was a post by Sean in the Network of Networks WhatsApp group. It was about HMIS curriculum development. He had posted it, and then quickly we were able to get in touch with the team there. Amira is here right now. Maybe I can leave the floor to her to share about that experience. How we were able to quickly form the team and work together and have the whole thing done in a very quick span of about I would say that maybe 2 weeks. So that I would say that one of the very practical experience of quick response where networks can work with other networks, if not between the networks, at least the members of other network. Another experience that I had with is with Raxel and Recainsa. In fact, many of the documents that Raxel has worked with Inter-American Development Bank, some of them used to be in, in Spanish or probably Portuguese, and then we had a request to have them in English so that we can share across the regions, and then also an understanding between the networks where we can actually co-create some of this content. Even if some network is leading an effort, other networks can actually look at it, review, and then they can give those comments. So that was also facilitated by some of the networks, which I find it very useful. Thank you. I think I have made some references. Maybe others can take it on from there and complete it. Thank you.
Mira, do you want to expand more on the HIS curriculum that Jay was referring to?
Yes, yes. I mean, I was faced with quite a big challenge just towards the end of last year, needing to put together an HMIS curriculum for Zambia, and I had no team. So I said to Sean, what are we going to do? So he said, just hold on, let me try something. And he posts a message on the network's WhatsApp group. And I think within an hour, Jay responded. And by the end of the next day, he had pulled an entire team together. And over the next 2 months, we all sat across different parts of the country. Some of us were in India, some of us were in South Africa. We had some of us in Ghana and Uganda, and we pulled together a bit of a curriculum in 2 months. And I think this has been a great success story because right now that curriculum is going through an approval process with the Nursing Council and the curriculum authorities in Zambia. So it was a great success that was facilitated through the network in pulling together expertise across many countries, bringing together global expertise to solve one big problem. So yeah, I think that was a great effort from the network. And Jay, can I also pick up on something Jay mentioned earlier? He talked about the conference that he was invited to in Africa, the eHealth Afro conference. And I think that was also a very interesting interaction that kicked off this whole network thing because we were at a critical point in South Africa redefining the digital strategy and pulling together many minds to think through what would be the inputs that would really drive a great strategy for South Africa. And I think Jay's input from Asia and his experiences from Asia really led to that discussion quite well.
Thanks, Amira. I also had faced a barrage of very tough questions in the end of the session. Thank you.
Yes, you did. I think you did great, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Mira. And I do remember that that message from Sean about the HMIS curriculum. I had also responded with some folks that I thought might be good for it. So I'm sure it sounds like he had the choice of, you guys had the choice of many people around the world to kind of work with through that collaboration and that access to all these different networks. So I know that Jay had also mentioned some experiences working with Danielle and Recainsa and Fernando and Raxel. So I see both have their hands up. So how about Fernando? Go ahead and share.
Many thanks, Christine. Just to mention that for us, our experience is very near to share knowledge between countries. And it's very important for us when we have the opportunity through Raxel at the beginning to know what happened in a country near to us. For example, from Uruguay to Chile, from Uruguay to Colombia, because we have similar problems and other countries, other groups have resolved in many cases or have the same problem, and we could together to work on it. So it's a way to create joint of efforts. And this experience was benefits with a network, a local network in Raxel. So we saw in in network of networks and this space opportunity to exchange knowledge, experience, not only with our region, now with other areas. It's very important what happened in Asia, what happened in Africa, what happened in Pacific. So we will have similar challenges, and we could interchange solutions, or at least it's a good space for reflection. We have our first connection with this space in Berlin, as Jay mentioned, and since this moment, we have access to many documents that you share even by WhatsApp, but for us it's very important. We have the access to guidelines, recommendations. We download, because not always you are viewing the websites of the many institutions. So the WhatsApp even is very important because all of us share important that information. And this contact make us probably to rise fast. So I think our first steps is continue joining, probably stay in touch, we share our expectation, and probably in the future we continue, I think, creating a more in-depth project, because it's a reality that we have in front of in a challenges of global health challenges in next years. Thanks.
Thank you, Fernando. What you're mentioning about having different countries having different challenges, and then being able to share information with each other, and to address those different challenges through solutions that maybe others have used, reminds me of something that was said in the first day of this meeting from Dr. Faisal of the Ministry of Health in Malaysia, that the pandemic has shown us that we are all in the same storm, but in different boats. And so I think we, as the network of networks, have really been able to also see that and live that out, to be sharing our boats and sharing the different builds of our boats, quote unquote. And so I think that is really, that keeps coming up through what each of you is saying, of being able to, we all have different partners within our networks too. So we are bringing together that wealth of expertise within our regions and our own networks to be able to share how to strengthen our boats. So Danielle, you've had your hand up for a while, and I know that Jay had also mentioned your collaboration there. And then I think Shupo also had something to say. So go ahead, Danielle.
Very much. To add something else that different that my colleagues mentioned, I think that the pandemic situation, of course, is the topic, the trend topic now, but the problems are the same before pandemic. The information, sharing information is very important. The experiences, the best practices. But we think that it's important to mention that we have other common problems, like the governance on digital health, that it's very important to have strong strategies, the sustainability of that strategies. I think that in our case, in Recainsa, we have a strategic line related with the strengthening of the governance in the countries. So we have learned a lot from the other networks, how they are working closely with the ministries of health, with the WHO regional offices. And that's it's important to us, this lesson, these strategies. Well, in our case, we are maybe the most stronger network here. So we have learned a lot from these experiences. And also other important part for us, that is the human resources training. We have important gaps, digital gaps in our human resources, in the health workers. So I think that the experience that AEHIN and African Alliance have done implementing integral, holistic programs to human resources training has very useful for us to don't reinventing the wheel. I think that this is the main, the most important principle here. But also the final part that is the space of exchange. I think that is important to the knowledge generation too. We have as a region in Latin America, we have important challenges in the generation of knowledge in our context. So we have learned a lot about how other regions are working in the generation of their own knowledge for the context, the different contexts in the countries. And I think that we are adding value also to the network because we have a strong focus in the gender and inclusion that is important for the digital health. Well, many of us today are we are men. We need more women on digital health, a key position. So, well, we are starting this year a program to train women on digital health, trying to create this leadership in our colleagues, women. So we expect that this experience can share with other regions too. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, you raised several other challenges that I think many are struggling with, and I think where we could align our networks to share and learn from each other, and perhaps even jointly develop knowledge products and kind of, I think of it as almost a learning agenda. Sometimes when I think about how can the network of networks proceed, should we set a learning agenda of certain questions that we want to answer, and then somehow disseminate our findings through our work in our own networks. Shupo, I know Shupo had his hand up for a while, so Shupo, and then I know Sean, you also have yours up. Shupo, did you have something you wanted to add
There's
here?
not a lot more, hello? There's not a lot more I want to add to be able to share the information and the knowledge. And like Jais started off sharing it rather quickly. There's that resides in one region that is useful to other regions. And being able to share that knowledge, it's not only diffusing that knowledge across the globe. Mindset that is captured in that quote, we're all in the same storm, just in different boats. So the eye of the storm right now, like Daniel said, is the COVID-19. But the same problems abound across, and just being able to leapfrog some of those challenges and leverage the lessons from other places will definitely help.
Okay, I think we may have lost Shupo. So Sean, how about you chime in here? Hopefully Shupo can come back, but I think we got the gist of his message.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Christina. We're going through such an interesting time at the moment in digital health. And those of us in a conference like this afternoon and this evening would know that some of the issues that we're talking about, we spent the last 10 years trying to get them on the agenda, thinking they were important, believing deeply we wanted people to discuss these things, but finding it quite hard to get anyone's attention. And now suddenly with COVID, there's incredible attention on these issues. So I think we carry a kind of a responsibility now that suddenly people are listening to these issues to be saying sensible things. And that means joining hands and making sure that what we're discussing has a global significance. And what we learn in one area really should be shared. And where we make a mistake in one area where we need to do better, that we should be reaching out to get that right. Now, when ACFI was formed initially, we put a lot of emphasis on governance. So we worked closely with ministries of health and senior people in ministries to get that sense of credibility and mandate. But what we realized very quickly is that it alone is not very useful unless you're doing practical things. People on the ground need practical advice, practical guidance, practical solutions. And to get those kind of practical answers, where do you go? Now, the first point is you need to go somewhere you trust. So going back to that example that Jay gave, what the networking of networks provides, at least for us in African countries, is a place where we can talk to trusted colleagues in a way where we're not going to expose our ignorance. We're not going to be afraid of exposing our mistakes. And we're going to be able to ask very frank questions and get very frank answers.
I think we lost Sean.
Yeah, I think there might be a bit of a network issue there. But if I can pick up on what he was saying, I mean, it makes me think of, with this pandemic, everybody's been communicating, and there's a lot of misinformation coming through many different channels. So the network also plays an important role in contributing or managing an infodemic alongside the pandemic, and sharing information that is credited and vetted through trustable networks. And that's an important role here.
Thanks, Mira. So I'm mindful that we have about 10 minutes left of this session. And so I wanted to just ask those of you who are here with us, it seems hearing a lot about our role as the network of networks, being knowledge sharing, even, collaborating on practical, when tangibly a situation arises, actually, hands-on collaborating together and working together. And then also, using our collective networks of expertise to kind of address some of the challenges that we are facing in the digital health space, and then raise up those learnings, either what went well or what didn't go well, to the global level. And being able to do all of that, requires, or, we're able to do that because we have this circle of trust amongst ourselves. And so I wanted to ask this group kind of, what do you think are our next steps? What do we need to do to kind of further these goals and objectives, so that we can continue to grow on this journey of becoming our own network? Yes, so Jay, I see you have your hand up, so go ahead.
I think one of the simple requirements is here, I think we should meet more frequently. That's something that we have been mostly meeting around around some events. And then, of course, we also have this WhatsApp channel, which we are connected. It's like, if not every day, we are having weekly exchanges. But then I think we should formally meet probably every month or every 2 months. So that could be one of the objectives that we can arrive at. Maybe that will help to work together more closely. Thank you.
Others? Danielle?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think that the important challenge is to align to a common digital health agenda. We don't have already a global digital agenda from WHO. We have a draft. This is still a draft. In the case of Americas, we have a strategic plan elaborated by the Pan American Health Organization about the information system for health. And we are trying to align to this framework, but we don't have any document globally. So I think that it could be a very good value that as network we can do in the next years, in this year, starting this year, but helping to implement this digital agenda and adding value, I think, to the global agenda. So the knowledge production, as I mentioned before, it's very important. So we have discussed about the possibility to to do some common activities like studies or surveys to generate information to fill this gap that we can have these common gaps to have stronger digital strategies. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Yes, I think that will be important to align ourselves, perhaps in along a global digital health strategy. I know the WHO has theirs for 2020 through 2025, so that may be one that we can consider aligning to. So you know that I hear some proposals to meet more regularly, to align on a common agenda, perhaps develop some shared knowledge products. I'm wondering if, I know we have a draft governance document and manifesto. I'm wondering if to kind of help us to solidify this collaboration, we may want to move those forward. I don't know how others feel about that idea, if that might be a good goal to have for this year.
Well, maybe having something else. We didn't mention still the topic related with the funds, because it's important to have impact, and when you want to have impact, you need funds. The funding is a challenge too. In our case, we are volunteers, but we at this year we are starting with a grant thanks to McGovern Foundation, because in one moment you can start doing something as volunteer, but it's not enough. So the common challenges that we have as network on network, the common idea, the common projects will need some support from the funds too. So I think that it will be a common challenge to how we can search for funding to do the activities, the common activities of the network on network, thinking as a global digital goods for all. So this can be very important to discuss in the next months too. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Yes, I think that we all can empathize with the need, especially for networks and communities of practice. It is a big challenge to get funding, but we know the value added of our work. And so I think that will be an important task for this group in the coming years to think about how we will put together, our proposal for funding, and also, how to existing resources that we may have within our own networks to support some of our works. Dr. Bunchai, I know you have a question that you wanted to ask the group. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just have a very quick, comments on that. I think to be a global, how can we find our friend in European and Middle East? That would be good. So I think one thing that we will trying to find more network to join our network of network. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Bunchai. I think that's a great point. I think we really have grown this year across our regional areas, but there's some areas that it would be great to get more expertise. Jay, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, thanks, Christina. Thank you, Dr. Bunchai, for the question. There have been some efforts towards that. And in fact, RITMOS is partly EU-based network. So Dr. Francis is based in Spain. And then, unfortunately, he could not join here, but then, he has his support for the NYN. Maybe we can pull up his last slide where he has also mentioned how we can work together as part of NYN. Azurin, could you please share RITMOS slides? The last slide, last part one slide. Thank you. This is what Francis has sent. He would have actually shared if he had been here. So he says that as part of networks sharing best practices, projects and initiatives. And he also hints about a research element also. So working together, main variables related to the development of digital health in different healthcare systems, and then also design and validation of shared model So these are some of the ideas that which he has suggested that we can work together. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the last slide, just to show more about Francis, because that answers Dr. Boonchai's question. Thank you.
Thank you,
So I'll
Jay.
see- yes, thank you.
I would like to kind of wrap up this session with maybe at least a few very tangible next steps that we all agree to. So maybe we can get a show of hands for meeting getting a meeting in the next 2 months to start to address some of these other issues around aligning around a common agenda, and then probably trying to formalize our manifesto or governance documents in some way. And also looking to align resources. So is there a show of hands to kind of move that forward? Seeing yeses, awesome. All right, well, thank you all for joining. And again, thank you to AHIN for having us today. It's really been, this was a wonderful forum to all get together and to celebrate, the work that we've done as a network of networks, but also to AHIN is a wonderful example of a really strong network in this space. And I've always been impressed by the work that you all have done and the different areas and programming that you all do. So thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to the organizers for next steps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina, for moderating interesting session. Thank you.
Many thanks, Christina.